Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about the PvP basics for Mystifiers. Now, Mystifiers are the most trickiest in my opinions to make teams around because they have a lot of good heroes, they have a lot of heroes that you want to pair with other heroes, and they simply cannot be divided, and it's really tricky to make a really good Mystifiers teams because there's so many possible opportunities in pairings with heroes that you simply cannot be satisfied with any team that you come up with. So we're going to separate some of the heroes that you're never going to pair. So for example, the newest hero Arcanist Bastet or Ascended Bastet, you will never pair her with Lancelot or Sandra. Now this is because Sandra has her own summon and Lancelot does Phantom Illusion, which steals enemy heroes. Now because of the Bastet, the extra slot will be forever taken by her pets, assuming her pets are 8 stars or assuming that she's 8 stars, so her pets will technically never die. Therefore you can eliminate these two heroes from the Mystifiers and move them to the another slot such as this and slot 3. Now this way you have eliminated some of the heroes that you are never going to be using with the Ascended Bastet. Now what you can see is that Sandra is a Monarch and she's a Mystifier, and we already have 4 or rather 3 different Monarch Mystifiers that really pair well together. Now is this a good team? Not necessarily. And why not? Because you still want to use some of these heroes with other heroes. So this is just one of the combinations that you can do, especially in the early game. All 4 heroes are not hard to get and they are quite cheap. Another thing you could do is pair them with Halessa with her legendary runes, that's extra HP to monarchs, which in seasonal content isn't all that big, but in non-seasonal it's pretty alright. You could replace Sandra with Aphrodite in non-seasonal and you have a pretty decent team that is very likely to win a lot of fights. This was a meta team a long time ago, so we're not really going to mention it, and we're going to remove these heroes and we're going to bring back Sandra in here. Now to return to the Ascended Bastet, so the way that she works is she makes enemy AoE skills target only one ally. What does that really mean? That means we really want to have Tiamat on our team. So Tiamat can only be damaged by crit hits. If we already make an AoE hit Tiamat, that's already a very high chance to basically negate the damage, since she can only be damaged by crit, and therefore if the hit doesn't crit, she will not take any damage. Another reason why we want Tiamat with the Bastet is because of the simple Tiamat's passive that makes enemies lose 200% attack every round, and this is really massive in both seasonal and non-seasonal. Tiamat is rising up to be one of the top tier PvP heroes in my opinion, and she's been putting out the work very good recently. A hero that really pairs nicely with Tiamat is Catherine, and a hero that pairs well with them is Dullahan. Now, why is this a thing? It's because if we check the Tiamat's runes, we will see that she shares the healing from the non-crits. So whenever Tiamat receives healing, she will heal all allies additionally for that heal. Why is this good? Because, well, then we pair her with Catherine, and what does Catherine do? When she receives healing, she will also heal all allies for 50% HP, and then with her legendary runes she will convert that to extra attack for all allies. What does Dullahan do? Well, simply we can read his runes. Each time Dullahan receives active healing, when the enemy team's total number of corrode stacks is higher than 20, he will heal all allies HP equal to 20% of the healing received. So as we can see, this is already a very strong healing based team. The issue is we are wasting Dullahan's Monarch, but I don't think it's really that bad at all because of the synergy they provide. Now we have 2 Deviants, we have 2 Celestials. This is a thing that you will forever and always want to keep your mind on. You will always want to have 2 Deviants in my opinion and 2 Celestials. If you do not have these 2 synergies in PvP, I don't think your team is really going to be good. So which hero is the last hero to slot in? Well, ideally that's Gaia, because she is simply the most broken Mystifier in the game. She will further enhance this team. Another thing is you have 6 Mystifiers now because you're using Ascended Bastet, so this team is pretty solid on its own and doesn't really require a lot of other things. The relics are not that important in Mystifiers, you should just make sure to use good relics. They don't necessarily have to be Mystifier's relic because this passive isn't really all that great. Tsuki and Emily are the most common pair because Emily applies additional corrode and enhances the corrode limit, while Tsuki steals enemy stats for extra corrode on the team, therefore they're just the most natural pair in the game. Now the issue is we will have Lancelot in here, who is a non-DD, and we have Emily, which is not really ideal at all, and that creates another problem when creating Mystifier's team, is that they have some of the better EV heroes that are really good, but you can't really run them like this. Now another version of Mystifiers that you have probably seen everywhere is going to be Gaia, Tsuki, and Tiamat, and Emily. These three are the newbies busting duo that nobody can never beat. They're the most broken synergy in the game. I heard this story so many times, but this team is really nothing special. You just need a few monarchs to deal with them, and that's basically it. Tsuki's, or rather Corrode, only lasts for 3 rounds, so Tsuki's stat still will basically fall off as long as you can survive for 3 rounds, and it's really not that difficult to do that. But if they're paired their early game synergy with Aphrodite, then this becomes far harder to deal with in my opinion because of the RNG, and you can add in Leviathan, and yeah, then basically this team is really strong in the early game. Keep in mind in the early game, because it requires low investment such as 7-star Gaia, 7-star Tsuki, 7 to 9-star Leviathan, just epic runes on Emily, and the 7-star Aphrodite, and this team will basically be a really strong team that you will struggle against. So yeah, that was another variation of Mystifiers that are mostly in the early to mid game dominant, but really fall off later. And yeah, when creating Mystifiers teams, as you can see, there's a lot of options to really make them quite unique, because so many heroes are really good in Mystifiers, but their synergy is simply bad, and they struggle because of their synergy. If you have 2 Celestials, you will basically always clear the corrode stacks, and therefore it's pretty hard to build up from there with the Mystifiers, and they fall off in the mid to late game. However, there's a lot of teams that you can build around with Mystifiers unit, and they're mostly in seasonal. They don't really work in non-seasonal, but you can do Lancelot and Astrid as they're both Arcanists. You can do Mulan even, and therefore have 3 Mystifiers, 3 Arcanists, and then you can add someone like Behemoth, because she's Arcanist and she scales with Astrid. Astrid increases attack based on speed, Behemoth increases the speed, and they're a really naturally good pair to go with. Then you can add basically any other Arcanist, such as Mavis, such as Wukong. Wukong is really great. Victoria, Odin, Hela, or even Arkindor Bell, I guess, would work in this team. So yeah, the Arcanists are pretty strong, and there's a lot of Mystifiers that are Arcanists, so a team like this is pretty strong on its own, and this is the way I would suggest playing Mystifiers now, apart from the most basic team I showed in the first showcase, which was this team and the Gaia. Oh, and the Dullahan. Yeah, if you don't want, you don't really have to use Dullahan, you can use Emily even, but you can also use Tsuki, so it doesn't really matter. The 4th hero is pretty much a filler hero. And yeah, I like Dullahan because he increases the corrode limit and it basically snowballs. The reason why you want Catherine on the 2nd slot is so she receives healing far faster from the Mystifier synergy, and then provides attack to all other allies. And yeah, hopefully I have covered everything, but as I mentioned, there's a lot of possible Mystifier teams to build. Their heroes are really good, their synergy is pretty bad, and you can be a really creative person with them, so and do not worry too much about them in the early game. Like trust me, PvP in the early game doesn't matter at all. Your priority should be Rift Odyssey and other PvE contents that generate more rewards and will reward you more in the long run, where other people will fall behind because they've been focusing on PvP over PvE, which is a mistake in my honest opinion, and I think your focus should be strictly PvE in the first 2 to 4 months and then only shift to PvP once you can reliably clear your Rift Odyssey. The now 3 core heroes for Mystifiers are going to be these 3 in my opinion. They are the most useful 3 heroes in the synergy, and they provide a lot to the synergy as well as to the team. You can pair them with anyone in my opinion, and you can just do this as well, but as I mentioned, just keep in mind 2 Deviants, 2 Celestials, absolutely important in all of your teams, no matter the synergy, no matter the hero. Just make sure to put 2 Celestials in the team, and ideally 2 Deviants, but they're not as important as 2 Celestials, and make sure they have unique runes if possible on the Celestials. Now to talk a bit about the Mystifier's relics, the best relic in the Mystifier synergy is going to be the Underworld Key, because it's the strongest, it provides the most in the PvP, but the best overall is going to be Night Sage for both PvP and PvE. Python's Mirror is one of the best PvP relics, but that's about it, doesn't really contribute much in the PvE. Crown is one of the worst relics in the game by far. Sight is pretty good, but you will not end up running it a lot. And yeah, apart from that, those 4 or 5 are the best Mystifier relics in the game. And the newest one I don't really tie to Mystifiers or any synergy at all. I think you should be using it for the effect and not for the synergies. Scissors are really good, but they require a high tier stars to actually cleanse the debuffs, or rather the controls, which is pretty expensive for a relic that only does that. And then you have the boat, which is actually really good relic. I think it's better in the Dooms, but it's a really good relic for a filler. I underestimated the HP it gives. I think maybe I'm just talking nonsense, but yeah, I think the boat is really good, and I will probably get it to 3 to 5 stars once it gets added to the free chests. And which relic did I miss? I missed the Cauldron, but yet again, Cauldron is the same case as the Gleipnir. You don't really use it for the synergy, you use it for the effect it gives. But yeah, I think those were all the relics. Plague Bow, amazing relic, you will be using it a lot. A really good relic in the Mystifiers and in the Valianters. Don't use it outside, just use it in Mystifiers if possible. A really good relic, really. But yeah, those were the relics, and hopefully you have learned something about the Mystifiers. As I said, they're very flexible units, they're really good units, their synergy is pretty bad in the current meta, and you can make a lot of teams. Like, don't be afraid to experiment on your own and just try it out. So yeah, good luck out there and have fun while making teams. That's the best part of this game, the variety of the heroes and teams it requires. So yeah, see you in the next video.